Good morning. Actually, good afternoon, and welcome to Gen Taub Live. We have some huge breaking news. This is shocking, and so shocking that I have to tell you, holy shiitake. I could just say holy shit, but I thought I would try to class up my language. This is not good. This morning, it turns out that a federal judge from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, was arrested this morning. This is not good at all. And she was, in fact, arrested at arrested by federal agents. This was announced this morning by FBI Director Kash Patel. I want to share with you, because this is a developing story, what the New York Times has said about this. Here we go. So this is the judge, Hannah Duggan. And we now know, this is the headline in the New York Times from this morning, that she was arrested and accused of shielding an immigrant from federal agents. They arrested her on suspicion that she, quote, intentionally misdirected federal agents away from, and, quote, an immigrant being pursued by the authorities. Now, this is what Kash Patel put in a post on Twitter, and then he deleted that post. But here's the problem, you guys. And there are a lot of problems here, but one of the biggest ones is that this doesn't happen, right? Taking a judge into custody on a mere allegation of this behavior without the courtesy of a discussion first. This didn't even happen to Donald Trump when his home in Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI and they found out that he was violating the law here. So I want to share with you what is actually going on here. And I want to drop into the chat a copy of this article that I'm sharing with you now. I'm sorry, I keep scrolling and I don't want to distract you in that way, but here you go. This is in the New York Times. And again, it's developing news. The deal here is that she was arrested on charges again of obstructing immigration enforcement. A spokesman for the U.S. Marshals confirmed this, and this is a major escalation, as Devlin Barrett writes, in the Trump administration's battle with local authorities over deportations. The Bureau arrested her on suspicion that she, again, intentionally misdirected federal agents away from an immigrant. Now, let's be clear of what we know. This says the spokesman for the U.S. Marshals confirmed that the judge had been arrested this morning. And this is what apparently happened. I'm going to stop sharing this right now. What we understand from what I have read is that she had someone in her chambers or in her courtroom who was there on some battery charges, some state law offenses. And because I guess ICE had come into the courthouse looking to apprehend him, apparently the allegations are that she showed this defendant and his lawyer a way to exit through her court chambers that would get him to a public elevator and out the building. I guess judges have ways to leave the building without having to go out into the corridors. And the argument is that her doing that was somehow a violation of the law. So I'm going to share this with you again. Katie Fang, my good friend, MSNBC host, put this this way. There's not a lot of info on this yet, so stay tuned for more information. But again, this is something that happened last week, but they rushed in and arrested her this morning. This is not good, to say the least. There is no way that a judge needed to be taken into custody. This isn't how things are usually done. It's not clear to me that she committed any crime, but if she did, the proper way to handle this is to charge her with those crimes. But you do not need to. They could have sat down and spoken with her, and she could have decided whether listened to the charges, hired her own lawyer, and decided when and negotiated when she would surrender to authorities if she'd actually violated the law just to be booked. That's how it usually works. This is crazy. And I believe that he is getting this way because he keeps losing in court and he hates judges. Now let's point this out to you. Our other breaking news, fabulous news, is that yesterday we had a federal judge block one of his most stupid orders. They're all stupid and mostly unlawful. And this was the order where Donald Trump, in his decree, executive order, had ordered an election authority that he oversees to try to require that state election officials or anyone registering anyone to vote first have proof that they are a U.S. citizen. And most of us do not carry around a passport, or when we go to vote, if we're voting on the spot, I don't carry my passport or birth certificate. We've already been through these issues, and this executive order on voting was struck down. Now, this was an executive order that he put in place on March 25th, and it instructed the group, was called the Election Assistance Commission, to change the way national mail-in voting registration that would require a document proving U.S. citizenship before you be registered to vote. And the judge, Colleen Kolar-Catelli, wrote a 120-page decision. And she also noted at the same time, if this sounds familiar, she wrote this at the same time Congress is debating that so-called SAVE Act. We've talked about that, how that would also, the theory would be, require state officials to not allow us to vote if our names on our birth certificates don't match the name we're using now, like on our driver's license to vote, which is very common for millions of women. And Judge Kolar-Catelli, her order is a huge, huge legal victory. And the key quote from this is right here on my screenshot. Our Constitution entrusts Congress and the states, not the president, with the authority to regulate federal elections. So this is critical because Donald Trump lost this. But if Congress is able to enact the SAVE Act, that could be a major issue for us. So this is a temporary victory. We've won the battle here, but not the war. Now, Donald Trump is, as usual, lying right and left. Let me tell you what he's been up to before I tell you some more good news. And on this, we have he said, she said. And I have to give Eric Columbus, credit for this expression. He said, she said, as in she, of China. And this is the last time I'll give Eric credit. We are going to adopt it for our own. So Donald Trump today ran into a reporter as he was headed out of the country to Rome. And Donald Trump keeps telling people that he's had conversations with President Xi of China, presumably to tamp down this tariff war. And a reporter said, you said you had spoken to President Xi. When did that happen? China says it hasn't happened. And Donald Trump said, I've spoke to him numerous times. Okay, sure. That's not what people were talking about. Meanwhile, over in China, Donald Trump is being mocked severely. Let's listen to what has been happening there.
Trump chickening out has been trending with 250 million views, mocking President Trump officially, calling him the 10,000 tariff grandpa. The other memes that are going around, King Know-It-All and Trump the nation builder, but that nation is China.
I would laugh. It's not great. I mean, I don't think if you tried to elect someone who could destroy America's credibility, devalue the dollar substantially, create tension among our long-term allies who've been our allies for now 80 years, to undermine the future of the health of children, the prospects of shared prosperity in America, and open our arms to one of our biggest adversaries, Vladimir Putin. If you had wanted to select someone, this is the guy you would have selected. But I did promise some good news, and this, my friends, is on the legal front. So, do you remember Andre Jose Hernandez Romero? You might. He is, and by the way, there should be a space between Jose and Hernandez. That's on me when I was typing this. So he is the man, a gay hairdresser and tattoo artist who was swept up due to a false police report about his gang tattoos. Not about, well, remember there's a police officer who claimed that these certain tattoos meant you were part of a gang, a Venezuelan gang. Well, he's not. And thank God the ACLU is taking up his cause. And what I am showing you here, and I'm going to blow it up a little bit bigger, is this. And let me first explain this to you before you just stare at a bunch of text. Okay, let's back up. You know, we've been talking about two, and I know there are more than two, but generally two, we've been talking about two different types of cases involving in the people who were whisked away without due process and put in a prison in El Salvador, right? And we've talked about the backdrop for this being Donald Trump creating this executive order invoking the Alien Enemies Act when it probably should not even be invoked, to suspend due process. And even if it is invoked, suspending due process like fair notice and a right for a hearing before you just whisk people away to this prison in El Salvador. Now, remember, that's the backdrop. And then we had two different things going on. We had Kilmar Abrego Garcia. His wife and his family had a lawyer file that lawsuit in Maryland, right? We've been following his case about that. And yesterday I told you, and that went up to the Fourth Circuit, right? We know this. And the Fourth Circuit affirmed the judge, Paula Zinnes, her demand that they do this expedited discovery. Now, we told you yesterday that the judge has put discovery on hold based on an agreement between Abrego Garcia and his family on one hand, and Kristi Noem and the Trump administration on the other. Discovery has been put on hold until next week, April 30th. And it's all of our expectation that there's been some negotiation that's taking place and that Mr. Abrego Garcia will be released. So that's one case we focused on. We have also focused on the cases that originated in Judge Boasberg's court in the district, in the federal district court for the District of Columbia. And we have focused on those cases because that case, I should say, let me just focus on the main one we looked at. That's the one where while the judge was in court, Donald Trump's administration was boarding people onto planes and getting them out of U.S. airspace in order to defy ultimately what would be the oral order, written, documented, on paper, that they needed to not take these folks away. Now, you remember that case, right? Now, I just want to be clear about this, that what happened at the Supreme Court after Judge Boasberg made that ruling was the Supreme Court, I just need to remind you of this because there's a lot going on, said, okay, I see this lawsuit defines a class of people to be people who are in prison right now in places like Louisiana or Texas or where have you, who are afraid. They've been taken into custody and they are Venezuelan and they are afraid that they will be sent to CICOT, sent to El Salvador. Okay. And the Supreme Court's response to that was, okay, no, Judge Boasberg's court's the wrong place for people who are in the United States. They should go file their habeas corpus petitions where they live. Where they're in prison. So if they're in Louisiana, if they're in Texas, if they're in New York, go find your federal court there and go complain to that federal judge that your people are in fear of being deported and you want that to be stopped. Okay, are you with me so far? Good. Well, late last night, the ACLU did something amazing. And this is where we get to our friend here, Andre Jose Hernandez Romero. What the ACLU did yesterday is they updated that complaint, that class action that's still going on in Judge Boasberg's court, to try to include a new class of people. They added Andre Jose Hernandez Romero. So Andre Hernandez Romero is what he goes by. They added him as a named plaintiff in this lawsuit for a new class of people. So this is why I said, thank you, ACLU. So here's what they're doing. This was a memorandum of law in support of a motion for class certification. Thank you, ACLU. And now I'm pointing to you to just one page of this document, the part that's important. I'm pointing to you to subclass 1, okay? So the initial class were all non-citizens who were, are, or will be subject to that March 2025 proclamation, right? So that was the class. And remember, this is the sort of problematic because if you, according to the Supreme Court, it could only, if they were not overseas, but if they were in the United States, there might be an issue with them seeking habeas here. However, some people actually live in the DC circuit, okay, or in prison there. Plus, without getting too much into the weeds, what they wanted to do here in this case is to add people who are in CCOT. So the subclass, CCOT subclass, and this is where our friend Andre Jose, I'm going to get his name right, Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, this is for him. So this is all non-citizens who are in custody at the Terrorism Confinement Center, CCOT, in El Salvador, who were, are, or will be subject to that proclamation entitled Invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Nicaragua, right? So this creation of this subclass 1 is utter genius. And here's why. Elsewhere, the Department of Justice has claimed that folks in El Salvador who are in that prison, that the place that has jurisdiction is this federal district court for the District of Columbia. So long story made short, there is now a case trying to get all the people who are in CCOT in El Salvador to come home. I hope I made that clear. I think I did. So, okay. Now, we have some other kind of fabulous news. This is an effort as people are waking up to the fact that who they thought Donald Trump was isn't who he was. And I know it might be frustrating for those of us who knew who he was well before he even came down the escalator in 2015. But not everybody is focused on, it has their attention pointed toward that. It's just the way it is. And so the tent of welcoming people and not insulting them is critical. And let me just say, indignation is real. That's fine. But in a sense of pride that you were right and they were wrong, fine. But if we cannot swallow our pride and stifle our indignation in the name of saving our democracy, then we don't even deserve this democracy. Now, let us play what Maxwell Frost was saying when he was meeting with folks in Florida, where he is the youngest member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Let's play this.
To be here with you all. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans.
Sorry, he was in North Carolina, even though he is from Florida. So let's get this going again. Let's play it.
So proud to be here with you all. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about the people versus the problem. Donald Trump is the problem. Elon Musk is the problem. And if you're here and you voted for Trump in the past, my message is simple. I'm sorry you were lied to, but welcome to the team. Welcome to the team.
I love it. I'm sorry you were lied to, but welcome to the team. He was in North Carolina in a congressional district where one of the Republican members of Congress was afraid to come meet their constituents. Good for him. And at one point, I think he picked up the drums and was playing it out in Los Angeles when Bernie and AOC were out doing their Fight the Oligarchy tour. Now, let's talk more now about some other things that aren't so good. Okay. So what we know now, and I've seen this in the actual DOJ memo, is that the Justice Department did authorize law enforcement to go into the homes of people to go without search warrants if they suspect someone's an alien enemy. And this is an immigration lawyer who spoke with USA Today about how bad this is. And I have an excerpt here from that memo, from the DOJ memo, which is circulating. So this does say, after a supervisor issues a warrant of apprehension and removal in deconflictation is complete, officers shall use all available tools to immediately apprehend validated alien enemies wherever they are found in the United States, including but not limited to inside alien enemies, residences, and workplaces. Prior to entering an alien enemy's residence to apprehend an alien enemy, officers must have reason to believe the validated alien enemy is present inside the residence. That does not include an actual warrant under, I know you see the other words warrant, but that is not an actual warrant under the Fourth Amendment. They make clear that they want people to go ahead, to go ahead without actual search warrants if they suspect you are a member of Tren de Aragua. Okay, now, more news. Horrible Pete Hegseth. I'm sure you've heard the very latest, which is now it's come out that Pete Hegseth had installed what we call a dirty line. So a line connecting his computer to the ordinary internet without any security so that he could use Signal, because apparently wireless isn't good. He couldn't just use it on his phone. So he's using the Signal app on his desktop and also engage during work hours in a fantasy sports site. Now, what we're hearing, Pete Hegseth is furious. The acting head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he was apparently, according to reporting, screaming at the guy to stop the leaks, at who was leaking, and that he was going to demand the guy get a fucking, and I'm quoting him, lie detector test. That did not happen. I think, we do want a civilian-led military, and I think what we are having now is people inside the Pentagon in officers' uniforms think this guy is a danger to our national security and a danger to all of us. And I think it's going to be leak until he just has to go. Now, speaking of other people who either have appointments or have just invaded the White House, Elon Musk. Does it surprise you that as he wraps up his full-time Doge service and just spends apparently 2 weeks on us and the rest of his time, crashing the stock of Tesla furthermore, does it surprise you that, Elon can't do math very well? And apparently I'm quoting you, what Elon Musk didn't budget for, firing workers costs money too. And the subhead, this is from the New York Times, an expert on the federal workforce estimates that the speed and chaos of Mr. Musk's cuts to the bureaucracy will cost taxpayers $135 billion this fiscal year. The question is, I mean, are we even saving any money at all? The New York Times says it might actually wipe out any of the savings that he claims to have provided, right? And I just, again, I like to share with you my sources here so you can see what I'm talking about. And here we go is this New York Times article. Here's Elon Musk, arrogant fuckhead that he is. That's his official title. He claimed, without providing details, that Doge is likely to save taxpayers $150 billion. This is down from the huger savings. He claimed it was going to be $1 trillion. Okay? $1 trillion. Now he's claiming $150 billion. Dude, $150 billion. Now we're saying it's going to cost upwards of $135 billion this year for what he has done, his stupid, hasty firings. So let me tell you something. If you even believe his $150 billion of savings, if you even believe that's the best number, and you subtract $135 billion, insane. Supposedly is at $15 billion. And that is, if you call that savings, think about the pain and the hardship to people out in public, the individual costs when you lose your job, when you lose your health insurance, the emotional, the financial, the social toll on people and families. What a complete fucking disaster, right? And I think that we probably could have, if not did, tell you that this would happen. Okay. And so now, my friends, let us come to Crazy Town. Oh, actually, shit. No, this is terrible. I don't want to go to Crazy Town yet. One more terrible thing, and possibly the most terrible. So, Donald Trump is trying to do everything so he can stay in office and run again. He's even made MAGA hats, Trump 2028. I shouldn't call them MAGA hats, they're just red. And yeah, you might say, well, if he gets first of all, he's not going to get the Constitution changed, you're saying. And if he does, wouldn't that let Obama run a third time? No, because if he gets the Constitution changed, he's going to change it so that you're allowed to serve another term if your terms weren't consecutive. He'll write it that way. Okay. But I don't think he'll get that passed. That's kind of not the point. The point is he wants to make it so Democrats can never get back in office. And he's doing all kinds of things that we've already talked about, including that SAVE Act. Well, the latest of great concern is he is now directing the Department of Justice to go after ActBlue, which is the platform through which many Democratic candidates and causes and the party itself raise money. And the reasoning behind this is so pretextual. It's stupid. It's inane. It's unethical. What they're claiming is, well, let me back up. You probably know that it's unlawful for people who are not U.S. citizens to directly fund campaigns, right? That's just, they cannot do that. There's other limitations on even foreign funding of independent expenditures, okay? But the key thing is the campaigns. And so you also probably know when you give directly to a campaign, as opposed to a PAC, there's also dollar limits. So on websites like ActBlue, they ask you to put your address in, to make sure you're not a foreign national. And they prefer for you to log in to make sure if you've given to a campaign that you haven't maxed out on your limit. Okay, simple stuff. Trump is claiming, ActBlue needs to be investigated because they found ActBlue's website found some people attempting to, as foreign nationals, give to campaigns. Well, catching people who are trying to violate the law is kind of a good thing. So for this, I want to share with you, and I've got this right lined up, Alicia Menendez talking about how fucked up this is. Okay, guys, I'm getting this together, and here we go. Let's blow this up and play.
Donald Trump's campaign of retribution is now taking direct aim at the Democratic Party's top fundraising platform, ActBlue. Just in the past few hours, the president signed a memorandum directing Attorney General Pam Bondi to, quote, investigate allegations regarding the unlawful use of online fundraising platforms to make straw or dummy contributions or foreign contributions to political candidates and committees, and to take all appropriate actions to enforce the law. Congressional Republicans have separately been investigating these claims of straw and foreign donations, which thus far have been unsubstantiated. Now, for those at home who may not be familiar with the name ActBlue, it is widely considered to be one of the pillars of the Democrats' digital ecosystem. It has given them a significant advantage over Republicans in terms of small dollar fundraising. It's not just presidential candidates, also candidates for congressional, state, and local races. Odds are, if you have donated to a Democratic candidate or a Democratic cause in the past several years, it's probably been through ActBlue. And this move by the president today could have major consequences for Democratic candidates, potentially hurting their ability to bring in donations and therefore compete in future elections. And it comes as the Associated Press is reporting that in the first 3 months of this year alone, donors have given more than $400 million to Democratic candidates through ActBlue, which is the most money raised in any first quarter in the organization's 2-decade history. In response to this memorandum, ActBlue said in a statement, the Trump administration's and GOP's targeting of ActBlue is part of their brazen attack on democracy in America. Today's escalation by the White House is blatantly unlawful, needs to be seen for what it is. Donald Trump's latest front in his campaign to stamp out all political, electoral, and ideological opposition. This administration continues to weaponize the instruments of federal power in an unprecedented assault on our democracy. ActBlue will immediately pursue all legal avenues to protect and defend itself against the administration's baseless claims.
So, friends, he's going to do everything he can to interfere in the elections, legal or not legal. He will do everything, just like he did when he lost the election in 2020. And I want to believe that we have the strength, the health to get through this. And this is where I bring back to us. We need to focus now more than ever on our physical health, on our relational health, on our intellectual health, on our spiritual health, on our mental health. We need to be prepared for situations that are going to be unpleasant and prepare so that we don't panic, so that we can think clearly. I am hopeful that somehow the Republicans finally step up and stop this man, because we need him out of office. And I fear and worry that just waiting for the next election, given what he is trying to do, won't provide the solution. So let us now, and I say that not to depress people, but I say that to say we need to get on this. Now, what I heard is Sarah Nelson, who is head of the flight attendants union, mentioned maybe we're going to get ready for a general strike. Remember that thing about 3.5% of the people need to hit the streets. I'm hopeful. I get it. I think that we can do this. I just think it's going to take clear eyes, steady nerves, and all of us together to both get through this and stop this assault on American democracy and on the American people. This is an administration who is killing Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels is a beautiful and should be nonpartisan effort to help people who cannot leave their homes, particularly the elderly, to get fed. This is who they are. They're awful people. Okay, so now let us do our crazy town, my friends. Today in Crazy Town is salmonella. Yes, the USDA has withdrawn a plan to limit salmonella levels in raw poultry. Okay. I don't know what to tell you guys. If you're someone who enjoys chicken, maybe, I don't know, eat more kale. I don't know what to tell you. This isn't great. And obviously the raw chicken lobby, I shouldn't call it the raw chicken lobby, but the industrial chicken lobby is in Donald Trump's pocket. I'm warning you. I think this is the craziest thing among the crazy things I have ever seen. Not protecting our health and safety, crashing the economy, starving elderly people, letting measles flourish, having the power of the dollar diminish, making us hated throughout the globe. What's next? I guess you will have to wait and see. In the meantime, have a lovely weekend, and I will see you bright and early at our usual time on Monday.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.